Hey, don't like go away and you go, oh yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to week 2 of the course. I just want to say first off, I think we got off to a really good start last week. I've been following along in some of the discussion threads. I haven't really made too many comments here or there in this first week. You may see me do that as the semester progresses. I may drop in occasionally. I'm going to make a comment, but for the most part, the discussion boards are for you guys to sort of work out the ideas amongst yourself. I really like to see some of the discussion threads that get going, and it's really interesting to see some of the more interactive conversations that begin to happen where you guys sort of begin to produce the knowledge around, for this week, it's this crazy term. I put it in scare quotes, Indian. That term, like all words, I guess, changes with meaning throughout time. And I think from generation to generation, there might have been greater acceptance of that word at one point, certainly in the early 20th century. And I know some of the older generations in my family have used that term interchangeably with Cherokee. But at the same time, I think we can see through some of our conversations how that word has sort of fallen by the wayside as we've sort of gone forward. But then again, you saw in the readings for this week, Simon Ortiz from Acoma used the word as well. So it's a mixed bag. I think everything sort of works with, in terms of terminology and what's the best term to use. I think it became quite evident, I think, as we went through the week, your safest bet is to always ask the question, what tribe are you? And then what is your tribe called? What do you call yourselves? And then begin to use that sort of term going forward. So you'll see me in a lot of the assignments and stuff that I do. And in the works that I've sort of assigned, I always identify, who it is that's speaking by by the name of the tribe, what they call themselves, right? And this goes back a long time. I think people across cultures, to show the greatest respect to anyone that you meet, what do you call yourselves? And then you sort of use that term sort of going forward. So that said, we talked last week a little bit about ourselves, I think, and we also talked about this idea of what sort of popular culture has sort of identified people as, Native people as, and sort of going forward for this week, I'm going to be talking about ideas of sovereignty, and we're going to be looking at a couple of works, I think, on some pretty different ends of the spectrum. We'll be reading a fictional excerpt by Forrest Carter from a book called The Education of Little Tree. You'll also be reading a book, some excerpts from David Troyer's, it's sort of reportage or sort of journalism, sort of first-person journalism, autobiographical memoirist journalism, I guess. It's from a book called Res Life that came out a couple years ago. I think 2013 it was published. A journey through 21st century reservation life from the perspective of the author David Troyer. We're just going to be doing like a couple of, excuse me, it's really hot today, super sweaty, Sunday. It's really humid. So we're going to be, so if I'm sweating heavily here, can't help it. I have no air conditioning where I live. So you'll be reading this first-hand account of reservation life in the 21st century. David grew up at Leech Lake. If you got a chance to read last week, Anton Troyer is his brother. They're called, never mind, there's a couple of nicknames for him up that way, but we'll let that be for now. It's an interesting take between when you begin to compare Forrest Carter's fictional representation of Indianness, although it's also, it's an autobiography. Or it was sold as a memoir and autobiography. So look at the two representations of nativeness between the two texts. And I want us to begin to think about, and the film that you'll view for this week as well, you're going to begin to look at this concept of sovereignty and how identity and how constructions of the self are deeply embedded, I think, in this idea of sovereignty. And we can talk about sovereignty of space, we can talk about sovereignty of the self, sovereignty of the tribe, sovereignty of the nation, and also how sort of Native people engage with that there's a legal definition, sovereignty is a legal definition, and it's going to continue to sort of play out over the course of the semester. So let's start there. Let's read the two works for the week. There's also some secondary articles, some discussion work, journal work, just like last week. let's see where we wind up. In the beginning, in the third week of the course, we'll begin reading Charles Eastman's From the Deep Woods to Civilization, and he engages in sovereignty in a much different way than the two writers that you'll be reading for this week. So keep up the good work. If you have any questions at all, as always, just send me a text or email. Post something in the I Need Help discussion thread. I'm subscribed to that thread, so if you post something there, I'll get an email letting me know that you've posted something, and I'll come in and try to help you out. Basically, again, great start last week. Just keep doing that same work for throughout the rest of the semester, and everything will be great. I will do my best I won't even start, even though I've been reading some of the stuff, I'll sort of drop in and I'll try to get everything graded by the end of this week, right? So probably by Thursday or something, or Friday at the latest, I'll have all your stuff sort of graded for the week. So, and I'll try to keep up and stay on that pace throughout the course of the semester. All right, that's it. Have a good afternoon. Enjoy the long weekend now that we've come to the end of it. All right, okay. Ashta.